Hey everybody, Nick Gumpert here with Remax Top Producers. Thank you for joining me on another month of Real Estate Update, giving you the latest and greatest information now that we're in the middle of July 2022. We'll start off with the national spotlight, then we'll look at the state of California, and then even dumb it down into the local area of the San Gabriel Valley within Southern California. So let's go ahead and get started. National spotlight, what's going on? Economic slowdown, that's what's going on. A lot of talk about recession, that big R word. It sounds daunting, it sounds terrible. So let's dig in to what an economic slowdown means for our housing industry. Recession fears surge among CEOs, survey suggests. 3/4 of global CEOs say we are in a recession or will be in the next 12 to 18 months, according to a new survey. Why would I even bring this up? Because it's not always sunshine and rainbows within the housing industry, right? We need to talk about what the truth is, not just about what the convenient truth is, or how do we wiggle our way out of not talking about something. With that being said, you're going to recognize and realize pretty quick that a recession doesn't mean a housing recession. So again, can't fight the fact that we are going to be dealing probably with a recession in some shape, way, or form. Let's see what that can look like. Throughout history, during a recessionary period, interest rates go up at the beginning of the recession, but in order to come back out of a recession, interest rates are lowered to stimulate the economy moving forward. Historically, we have seen a repeated uptick in interest rates followed by lowered interest rates. That's coming from a mortgage specialist who's been in the space for numerous years and has seen things come and go. Again, perspective is key. What does that perspective look like? Here it is. So this is dating us back all the way back in the 70s when we've seen recessions, right? What does it mean for interest rates? You can see there's been an uptick, right, at the beginning of the recession, and then things come down, things meaning interest rates come down. And again, we're talking about historically, they ticked up and then they've come down. You can see in 2002, we dealt with a recession there. We dealt with a recession in the 08, 9s, right? Things ticked up slightly here, and then they came down, again, speeding the economy back up. So perspective, again, perspective is key. Let's look at a different graph. Same information, different way to present it. So 1980 recession lasted for 6 months. Interest rates went from 16% to 11.8%. Again, objective information to help guide our subjective opinions. It's not just a matter of, oh my God, they're rising so high, or, oh, they'll come back down. How much? How much will they come down? Well, historically, let's look at the Great Recession, the one that lasted a year and 6 months. They went from 6% to 4.9%. You had the COVID recession. Again, housing prices didn't plummet during COVID, right? They skyrocketed, but yet we found ourselves in a recession economically. Interest rates went from a low 3.8 to a lower 2.8, historically low, right? So over the past 5 recessions, mortgage rates have fallen an average of 1.8 percentage points from the peak seen during the recession to the trough. And in many cases, they continue to fall after the fact, as it takes some time to turn things around, even when the recession is technically over. Again, things to be mindful of. If we do and probably are seeing ourselves in a recession in just at the beginning stages, right? Interest rates definitely aren't coming down next week, not dramatically anyway, to kick us out of a recession, because right now economically we're doing well overall. Okay. Here's what I was alluding to earlier: recessions don't equal a housing crisis. Okay. So since 1980, out of the 6 recessions recorded, homes appreciated 4 out of those 6. Early 90s, a couple percent, right? Not a big drop, but a little bit. And then you've got that anomaly of the 08 that affected so many people negatively. So understandably, that sticks with people, right? It was such a big decrease in home prices. It affected our economy as a whole so significantly. So it makes sense to hang on to that. Just understand that's the only time in our history that our houses did what they did in terms of their appreciation turning into depreciation, right? Only time. So again, perspective is key. It is not cyclical. We are not due for 20% drop in home prices. We're not due for a 10% drop in home prices. It is not a cyclical thing. to go through depreciation. So let's talk about home sales. Again, looking at the national landscape here. Home sales, look at this. Average days on market. Average days on market from a national standpoint, you see where we're at. And now you see May on a national level, 16 days, right? Look at days on market, really. Let's date it back to there we go. Before the pandemic even happened. And now, days on market is what it is. So here's the perspective, right? Supply is low, right? But it didn't mean we didn't have any supply, right? We hit record number of sales. All it meant were things were moving fast. Here's the proof in that statement. Things moved quick relative to where we were in May 2019. We had 42 days on market on average, right? January 19, right? So, I'm sorry, that should be 18, right? So 19, that's a misprint, right? But again, perspective is key. What does fast mean? This is what fast means. This means houses were coming on, going off, right? Existing home sales. Look at where we're at. So for all the talk that the news wants to say, oh my gosh, we're so far off of last year. Yeah, we are. We are far off last year, but look at where we are historically. Look at where we were in 2014, right? We're essentially in line with 2019 sales, right, currently. Well, Nick, how does that stack up? We can see how that stacks up. That's a pretty darn good year in real estate, if you ask me, right, in terms of existing home sales. So again, perspective is key. The news is going to try to draw your attention to say home sales are down 150% from last year. Yeah, they are. I mean, I don't know that it's 150%, but point being, yeah, they're down significantly. But again, you have to remember the Fed heavily influenced and made it very easy and lucrative to borrow money when interest rates were so low, right? Now that they're ticking up, it should be expected that we're not seeing as many homes sold because it's making things more challenging to borrow the same amount of money when interest rates are higher. Percentage of distressed property. I've talked with numerous people about this recently, and there's like, Nick, I read an article that foreclosures are up 700%. I don't know what article that is, number one, but number two, look at where we're coming from. So even if they're up 700%, which sounds daunting and scary, doesn't it? But we're talking about less than 1% of all sales in May. We're at historical lows when it comes to distressed and foreclosed properties taking a chunk of our market. Look where they were in 2012, in and around 35%. So again, context matters. Don't let headlines drive your subjective opinions on when it comes to the housing market and where things are heading, right? Context is key. You can lean on me when it comes to giving some context to headlines you may come across. Let's look at home prices. What have they been doing? February, right? This is February of 2021. They climbed year over year. This is year over year. Okay. So April is the one that I have most recent information for. But we're 21% over last year. And last year was 15% over 2020, right? Change in home prices. They're still going up, right? Still going up, even though sales may be going down. Crazy to think, but that's our reality right now. So how do we get that under control? Interest rates have to rise. That's what has to come with the territory. Estimated home price performance. Well, Nick, what are home prices projected to do moving forward, right? Surely the bottom's going to drop out. We can't sustain it. I would say you're right. We can't sustain it, right? That's why we need interest rates to go up to help not further inflate home prices. So what does that mean? We're going to decelerate our appreciation. It's not going to drop into depreciate, meaning lose value. Here's a visual to show that. This year, we're projected to make in and around 9.3. Again, this is nationally, not locally, right? 9.3 appreciation. Good 23, 24, 25, 26. That's healthy. What does healthy mean? Well, 4.14% is our historical average for annual appreciation. That's our historical average since 1991, 4.14%, right? We're more than doubling that. We're expected to this year alone, right? State of California, you saw 19.7% in 2021 on average, right? So just because you're seeing these lower percentages, that's not a bad thing, number one. It makes it a healthy housing market, number two. And look at that, over a 4-year cycle, again, this is what's projected. Nobody has a crystal ball, of course, but here's what's projected. You're still looking at 14, close to 15% of appreciation. It's a pretty darn good space to be in, if you ask me, when it comes to saying, is now a good time to buy? Well, here's what you're projected to miss out on if you want to just wait for that wait and hope that home prices will drop. You're going to see things get more expensive, and it's just going to cost you more in the future. It's your decision, right? So the root issue of what drives house prices almost always is supply and demand. This is coming from the personal finance personality himself, Mr. Dave Ramsey. Right now, interest rates affect that. When interest rates go up, guess what? Fewer buyers. Mentioned that earlier. The demand goes down, thus prices are going to soften or not be as cray-cray, his words, as they have been. And that's what we're seeing right now. Can't argue with that, can we? That is what we're seeing right now. Single-family housing units completed. Take a look at this. For our shortage of homes being built, it took us 14 years. 14 straight years below the 50-year average has put us in the place that we are today, right? We have an undersupply. So you might say, well, Nick, now we just need to build more homes. It's not going to happen. And here's why. Because home builders and developers, they don't want to oversupply. Why? Because then they put themselves in situations like the mid-2000s. It's almost like they've learned their lesson the hard way, and they're not going to overbuild again. I can guarantee you that. And as interest rates rise, it makes it less lucrative for builders to build, right? Currently, we're seeing a lot of people drop out of their contracts for new builds because interest rates have fluctuated as much as they have. Builders don't want to have to deal with that. They want to deal with certainty, and they want to deal with being able to borrow becoming a very easy thing, right? So interest rates rising is not ideal for brand new builds, right? And those developers. So again, context matters, but be aware. Our housing units, our shortage in the single family home is not a 1-year thing or 2-year thing. It's a 14-year thing that's boiled and boiled and boiled. And now we've seen the top blow off with prices going up because demand skyrocketed and supply, relatively speaking, is low. U.S. population by generation. Some of you might be saying, well, Nick, it's not the supply side, it's the demand side. We surely can't have that much demand moving forward. Well, I'll be on the other side of that and say, yes, we can. Baby boomers, right? Baby boomers were once upon a time the biggest demographic in the U.S. That has sufficiently been replaced by millennials and those Gen Zs that are starting to get older and age into home buying ages. You can see, again, mathematically speaking, baby boomers used to be that biggest generation. Tapered off with Gen X, but now we've got millennials and Gen Z. They're starting to get there, and they're wanting their homes. They're wanting to upsize, maybe for those millennials, to say, I went from a condo, now it's time, our family grew too big, we need to get into that house, right? So again, the demand will be there long term. So experts don't believe the market is in a bubble or a crash, or that a crash is in the cards, like during the Great Recession. The nation is still suffering from a housing shortage that has reached crisis proportions at a time when many millennials are reaching the age when they start to consider home ownership. Just talked about that with the prior graph, right? That's likely to keep prices high. That's coming from Realtor.com. Again, information, share it. If any of this has rung true to you and you're just like, I'm so glad I know this now, please give it a big like, share it with people, give me a comment. Let me know what you think. Do you appreciate it? Do you want to keep learning some of this information? Would love to hear your feedback. Right now is the best time to buy a house in the next 5 years. We're getting back to Dave Ramsey, that personal finance personality. So again, best time in 5 years is what he's saying. Here's why. Okay, prices are not going to go down. Some of you are saying, well, I'm going to wait for prices to come down. You're not going to get them. They're not coming down. Again, his words, but perspective matters. And does whatever he says ring true? Not 100% of the time. Again, nobody has a crystal ball. But for him having the experiences that he has, and for him being able to see what he has, That's his opinion on the matter. Now you have to make your own. Housing inventory. What does that look like? You've heard about so many more houses coming to the market. Let's talk about it. National average, 19.9%. That means it's increased from June, just from May. National average has increased that. California, that's where I live. We've increased in around 21%. So you can pause this and zoom this in on based on whichever state you're in. But here's what that means. Bigger picture. Looking back to 2011, just over 10 years, right? 2011, look at where we were inventory-wise. We had 9.5 months of inventory. For those of you that say, Nick, you lost me, what does that mean? That means if we picked up no more inventory, it would have taken us 9.5 months to get rid of all the inventory that was for sale. So even for as good as it is that our inventory is growing, look at where we're at. We're at just about 2.6 months on a national level. Not a local level, but a national level, right? So is it good that we're going up? Absolutely, it's good. But we're also coming from, again, historic lows, right? So as long as this keeps going up, that's the big thing, right? What is it going to look like this time next year? What's it going to look like this time in 4 months, in 5 months? Hopefully it continues to go up to give buyers more choices. And again, to ring in these appreciation levels to slow those down back to those 4%, 3% that we're used to. Months of inventory of homes for sale. Let's look at just the last 12 months. Look at that. Pretty much right where we were last July. That's our reality, right? Pretty much right where we were this time last year. Again, it's a positive. We're trending in the right direction, but we're by no means out of the woods yet when it comes to having an oversupply of homes. Mortgage rates, winding down this national spotlight here, guys. Mortgage rates, here's where we are. This gives you a week-to-week projection, a year, my fault, not a week on this one, but this is dating us back to 2016. How high have they been? This gives us a 6-year snapshot, doesn't it? Here's where they were. So yes, it's the highest we've been in the last 6 years. That fact is true. But historically speaking, if we blew it up even more and looked at the 90s, 80s, 70s, again, it's still relatively low. So just be mindful. It's not the worst we've ever seen. Okay? Here's what we've looked at. Now this is the week to week, right? You can see here in the last month, things have started to tick down and not get as high. So things to be mindful of, right? For what have interest rates done? Again, context matters, and it's not just they've risen so much. Well, here's exactly how much they've risen by, right? Remember the 1 to 10% rule. For every percent that interest rates rise, it's going to affect your borrowing power by 10%. So if they rise by 1%, it's going to negatively affect your borrowing power by 10%. If interest rates lower by a full percent, your borrowing power is going to be able to increase by 10%. So that's your little tip built into the mortgage rates and something to be mindful of for you and your friends. So the low rates of the last few years were an anomaly, a combination of freakishly low interest rates and the Federal Reserve intervention in the bond and mortgage-backed security market. Now the Fed has ended quantitative easing and is raising rates. Again, it was an anomaly. Don't expect interest rates to bump down to below 3% anytime soon, and maybe ever, to be honest, because again, that happened for the first time in our history, right? And that was coming from Washington Post. Until inflation peaks, mortgage rates won't either. Without improvement on the inflation front, we don't know where the interest rate ceiling will be. Again, the only way we're going to know for sure and definitively is looking backwards in time. No one's going to be able to project and predict that future, right? That we all want, but none of us are going to get. So know that those two are close in correlation, inflation and interest rates. The more inflation keeps going, you can plan on interest rates following close behind, right? Because that we're trying to get that inflation under control. Interest rates and raising them helps us do that, right? That's a little correlation piece there to be aware of. Last couple slides, and then we'll get into the state side. I think mortgage rates will stay relatively steady over the next month, with rates on the 30-year mortgage ranging between 5.75% and 6%, and rates on the 15-year mortgage hovering around 5%. That's coming from Rick Sharga, their Executive VP of Market Intelligence. Okay, so thinking things are going to level off. Again, nobody has a crystal ball, but that orange gives you an idea of where the experts expect interest rates to be in and around for the foreseeable future, right? Your 30-year fixed mortgage. So let's jump into the state spotlight. Again, I reside in California, so that's the information you're going to get from me. New record high of median cost for a home in California. Misprint, my apologies. It is not a new record high. It has actually lowered. Didn't catch that one before I came here, obviously. This is down from last month's record of 898 plus. We are down to 863, right? So that is objective information for you for the median cost of a home in California. Average days on market. I did catch this one up. Don't worry. It is 11 days on market. This time last year, we're at 8 days. Ticking up. But again, this is so quick for homes to come on the market, get off the market, right? Starting to take a little bit longer. We need that continue to grow. 30 days would be an ideal, normal, safe space to be for our industry as a whole. 11 days, we're still pumping things out. It's still very competitive. It's still very aggressive. But again, we're talking about the state of California here and what the averages are. So what does that mean in a bigger scope? Consecutive months, at least 50%, right, of homes sold over list price. We've had 22 straight months. This started back in September 2020. Okay, September 2020. This last month, 58.8% sold over list price in California in June 2022. LA County, you saw 70% of all listings sell over list price. We were at about 70% in May 2022. So it's not 70%, is it? What it was the month prior. So not quite as many homes selling for over list price, which is why you're hearing about some homes selling for under list price. So again, it does exist, but it's by no means the majority yet. Okay. So again, context matters when the news wants to talk about home prices are dropping and price reductions, et cetera. Well, it's not a vast majority at this stage, right? And we've still had 22 straight months of consecutive months where at least 50% of homes sold over list price. 22 straight. Monthly inventory levels. Neutral market, right? 6 to 7 months. We're at 2.5. So has inventory risen since January? Yeah, it's almost doubled since January. That's a good sign. But we're a far ways off 6 to 7 months. State of California, I think realistically, in around 4 months is an ideal benchmark to say, okay, now we might see home prices across the board start changing a little bit and potentially coming down. But we need to get to that 4 months before we even entertain that idea on a bigger scale of the majority of home prices coming down from where they're currently listed. So just be mindful of 4 months. It's going to be a better indicator for all of us to reevaluate things. Share of listings with price reductions. California, we saw in around 35%, right? Average percent reduced was 5.6%. Nick, what does that mean? Well, that means if our average price is $863 today, right, as of this month, that would mean a 5.6% reduction would be in and around $815,000, right? So again, we saw 35% in the state of California have price reductions. We did see that. That is a fact, right? San Gabriel Valley, the cities that I track, right? You can find me on Instagram, here on YouTube. I share this on a monthly basis and on a weekly basis within the Instagram world. But cities that I track in the San Gabriel Valley, 73% sold over list price so far in July 2022, and 74% overall in June 2022. That's still a vast majority, right? Still a vast majority that are selling over list price. So 22% sold below list price so far in July, right? Well, Nick, that's only 95%. I can do my math. 5% sold at list price. All right. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. If we would have bought in September 21 an $802,000 house at that interest rate, and it was lower, right? I just pushed it higher because this is a normal interest rate today. But let's just pretend we're looking at a monthly payment of $4,400. Same cost of a house, same percentage down. Interest rate changes. If it gets to 7%, there's your monthly payment. Can you afford that difference? Right? So don't just buy when prices are low. Buy when rates are low. How do you know if today's rate is going to be lower than 4 months from now? You don't, right? But here's a little catchphrase that is very popular right now in the housing industry, and that is marry the house, date the rate. You can't refinance a home you don't own, right? Marry the house, date the rate. You cannot refinance a home that you do not own. Things to be mindful of as you're trying to decipher, should I buy now? The rate isn't perfect. The price is this. You have to figure out your budget. Are you comfortable with that payment? Cost of waiting, here's just a different picture. Difference in monthly payment from 5.5% to 6. Didn't even play with the 7. Just that difference of $685 a month. Let's look at the 30-year change on that. You just paid an additional $246,000 in change just by it fluctuating 0.5% over your 30-year loan. Harsh reality, right? So my job is not to tell you what to do. I don't need to tell you to buy a house. My job is only to show you what happens if you choose not to do it, right? There's your difference. And that's just playing with a 0.5% difference. But there's your difference over 30 years. It adds up, right? And this adds up real quick to say, well, I can't afford that. I could have afforded up to $4,600, but I waited, and now it's at $52,000, and now I can't get that $4,600 monthly payment, right? Decisions to make. So prospective buyers, what do you need to know? Pre-approval before you start looking. Otherwise, the market is happening, like I said, 11 days on average right now. It's not slowing down considerably. Have your pre-approval done before you start looking. Otherwise, you're going to get false hope saying, oh, I found the house. I haven't talked to a lender yet. I need to do that. It all takes time, right? So do that before because it's also free. You don't have to pay anything to do that. Know what your budget is. Be prepared to move quick. What will you do if there's a mismatch in price? If you can't find that home in your ideal location that you desire, are you going to drive a little bit farther? Do you have a family member or friend who can help you out a little bit with the difference? Are you willing to give up some of your ideal amenities, type of kitchen, square footage, different things? Are you willing to give some of that up in order to make the price work? Those are your decisions, not mine, but things to think through. So understand an individual home price being lower does not equal all home prices coming down, right? You might be hearing, oh, well, there's all these price reductions out there. Yeah, but if it's a $2.4 million home dropping to $2.2 million and you only are pre-approved for $900,000, it doesn't matter, does it? Right? So again, context matters. Lean on professionals like myself to help you navigate the muddy, murky waters that confuse a lot of people. Local spotlight, we wrap it up here. Gives you a little snapshot. You can pause it, zoom in, take a look at what the average home costs in certain areas. Of course, if you haven't noticed and you're following this, it has changed month to month because new numbers come out every month. Therefore, it resets the median price. So you're just like, well, Nick, San Gabriel was higher last month. Yeah, it was. That median price has come down based on what's sold in the last month, right? As has home sales and active listings. So take a look at on your own time there. June 22 versus July 22. Homes sold. I track 500,000 all the way through the price point of 1.5 million. So I don't track everything. So that's the range. So you can see that what's fluctuated here from June to July. Again, just want to let you know I have that here also for townhomes and condos, but I'll leave it to you to take a look through on your own time when it comes to have we sold more or less or the same. All right. So deceleration in home appreciation does not equal depreciation. Let me repeat that. Deceleration, slowing down in home appreciation, does not equal depreciation, which means lose value. They're not one and the same, right? They're not interchangeable terms. So let me give you an example, objective information here. July 1 through 19, right? Homes, condos, and townhomes sold in San Gabriel Valley area that I track, 73% over list price so far, 22% have sold under list price so far, 5% at list price so far. That's in this month of July. That is real-time information. So again, just because we're seeing the pace of homes slow down and the appreciation in those homes slow down, it does not mean the homes across the board are losing value and all homes are being sold below list price, right? Again, lean on professionals in your local area to help guide your opinions and decisions. Not make them for you, but guide them. Last couple slides, summer buyer and seller guides. They're now available. Just shoot me an email. There's my email. Easy enough. Free information. Again, maybe it's not you, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a neighbor, right? If they've asked, have you heard anything about that? Do you know where I can get some information? Email me. I'm happy to share that at no cost. Free. This is August 2nd. I'm going to have a financial advisor there, a CPA, a real estate attorney to help answer questions pertaining to the selling of a property. My apologies. I did not get this. That's two mess ups now that I've had. Did not get that changed out. My apologies. Email me. I left it on the prior screen. Easy enough, right? August 2nd, though, via Zoom, so you don't have to travel anywhere. It's at 6 p.m. But again, just email me at realgump365@gmail.com, and I can give you that link to that. Easy enough. There you go, guys. My goal to help you build a happier, more proud, and accomplished version of yourself through real estate. My name is Nick Gumpert, RE/MAX Top Producers. Thanks for hanging with me this week. Again, if you got any value out of this, if you can smash the like button, share it with someone that you know could benefit from it. I'm happy to be a resource for anyone and everyone you may know. So until next time, this is This Time. Have a good one.